So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live stream, impromptu Saturday. It's a bit of an overcast day in the UK, so I've got Blanky and little dog's disappeared. It's recorded for Ustream and also recorded for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. So welcome all my YouTubers. And I'm actually putting my Caran neocolor 2s. They will be going physically as a crayon into my Derwent art bag when it arrives, and they will be joining the Derwent art bars, and this is what the sleeves look like. Now I've put a little bit of paper behind, so because a lot of colour will come off, not a lot of colour but some colour will come off, but these are very tight when you first start using them. When it gets to the other side they get looser, but that's to protect them. And then I can take my neocolors around the house with me and they're going to be protected. Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Suzanne says she's sending sunshine. We need some sunshine. So I've put my crayons into sets of 6 because I decided that as much as I love my little book, I don't want to do this again really. So these squares are a bit small. They've lasted me, but I'm using them more now. So I've decided that I need some bigger squares. So I started with the white and the blacks, and I will label them when I get them all in. And then there's the plastic in between. But I can see all the greys, and then I can turn that page over, and again they will be stuck down, and I can see all my yellows and oranges, and then I can turn the page over and I can see all my reds and my pinky reds, but there will be the plastic in between, and it's the plastic that protects them. So I take this to hospital. When it's wet, that can be soaking wet, and I just shut it. And all that's going to happen is a little bit of colour on that side. Now, if I use that as a paper palette for mixing colours, if I wanted to mix colours, I'd have to wipe it and dry it before I shut the book. But as long as you don't have anything on the plastic except for what's opposite, it's never going to contaminate any colour. And if that wasn't there, they would contaminate each other, because Caran neocolor 2s are very well pigmented and they mix quite well together. So I'm going through the reds at the moment, and I've labelled them what I want. I had a bit of a play here to make sure I was going in light to dark, but I think some of them I might mix about. I originally did this making the squares, labelling them, and then I played about with them, so I knew that even though one was called red, if it was a browny red I'd put it with the browns. So that's what I intend to do. So I may cut these up. I've made them on some sea white sketchbook paper, and it actually has a magic word at the back, and it says extra wet strength. So it's a sketchbook and it has an ink sign. It doesn't have a watercolour sign, but it has an ink, and it's a sketchbook. But it also says this one actually has a water brush on it. It's not watercolour paper. If you start using watercolour paper, what happens is your colours will sink into the paper, and we don't want that. When I wet this, I want the colour to sit on top. I want it to dry, and I want it to sit on top. Now I've actually got quite a lot of colour coming off here. Some of the colours I think will do that. It's to do with the pigments, and it's to do with what they are. But basically, if you go over and back and then over again, it's a bit like when you're decorating. If you're doing gloss paint, you want a thin coat one way and then you want a thin coat the other way, and you're not going to put too much colour on anything, but you're going to make sure you've got an even coat, and that's what we've got. There's the tiniest little bit missing there, but there's hardly any, and that's going to give me lots of colour, but that's all I've done to the end. Hardly anything has been used, but that's allowing me to take these away. I can take them anywhere, on the aeroplane, anywhere, and I can leave the crayons at home in the big tin. So the next one is Alizarin Crimson. And sometimes if you're doing small areas you can't judge the colour. So you might think that's pinkier than that one, so that should go there and that should go there. But the main idea is to get them all on here. And if you look at this, it does not look like an Alizarin Crimson. But there is a square next to each one. And that's to do a colour swatch. I think I've done one colour swatch. See that. So I take a small amount of colour and I do a colour swatch. So I get the darkest to the palest, and that's quite handy. It's very handy for the ink tents because they're very difficult to see. The peerless are like that as well, because you look at the peerless and you've got really different colours. And it's quite nice to see that even by just putting a little bit of water to it, you're going to get a completely different colour. And that's what led me to the fact that really I didn't need the full set. I just jumped on the bandwagon like everybody else, and I should have known better, because with a little bit of water I've probably got most of these colours 10 times over, because most of them will just be the same colour, but they'll just be adding black, adding white. So this is the last one. Sorry about the bark alert. When it's nice weather, we have people walking, and it was strange because years and years ago nobody ever came near, but now people started walking, and we didn't have any street lights, and now we have street lights. So people were frightened to walk past the haunted hall. Now they don't bother. So. Hi Diamonte, Joshua Cat, anybody else popping in? Welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm putting my neocolor 2s into so if you actually pick all those little bits up, you can get them back in. And we're scribbling about 3 layers, but you scribble until you're making bits, because once you start making bits you're just wasting your colour. But that's going to give you a very nice covering, solid colour, and that's going to be a lot of colour in my little book. So that's the reds, and that's the pinky reds. So I can open up and instantly I've got 12 reds, and all I'm doing is just flicking a little bit of plastic. And then if I use a lot more, like I quite like Venetian, the look of the cad red, I'd probably use a lot of that. All I've got to do is say to somebody, can you go get me the cad red please? And the cad red is number 54, which is about somewhere. And that's cad red light. Sorry, it is cad red light. So I can just go get this colour and go, right, I've used too much of this. and I can fill just that one up without ruining any of the others. And that's the beauty of this. That's why they're all labelled. The same with the Derwent Inktense pencils and the Derwent pencils, the watercolour pencils. Sometimes I use more colours than others. Like this one is Irish blue. You can see it's not quite as shiny because I've used a lot of it. And the purples. So where it's getting a bit thin, I can just go look for my deep purple number 670. And I can scratch colour over the top, and I've revamped it. Yes, Kenny, I bought the Sea White sketchbook. I don't know if I've got it handy, but they're not very expensive. They're a couple of pounds. Now this one is a Graduate Daler Rowney, and it doesn't have that, and it says it's 160 GSM. And it looks quite good quality, so that might be okay. But you don't want watercolour paper. You want a sketchbook. And most of them are a pound. They're a pound if they're this size, the A5 size, which is 5.9 by 8.3 inches. If it's the A4 size, which is printer size, they're normally about £1.99. But there's no reason why you could not make your pages this size and put it in the back of your Hobonichi. That's what I did. My Hobonichi, hopefully it's going to just behave itself if I pull that. So my Hobonichi is here, and this is all neocolor 2s. And you could get an A5 book for 99p. Put all your colours of squares in it. You would probably get 6. You don't have to cut them out. You just get 6. You get 12 big squares, and then you could just put it in the back of your Hobonichi. Or this is my homemade. It does go in there because it's been in there. And then you've got hundreds of colours in there with your Hobonichi. And you've got all your gorgeous paper to do colouring, playing with colour. I'm not very good at doing the Hobonichi thing. I did try, really not good at it. Can't do anything with dates on. I think it's because I'm dyslexic. So that one probably would work okay, but the one I use the most has got at the back, and I don't think this has, on the Sea White from Bridlington, it says Sea White and it says extra wet strength, and that means that you can use a little bit more water on it, but I think this is quite good quality. This is about the same, but you want it fairly flat. You don't want watercolour, because if you use watercolour, when you wet this, the colour is going to sink straight into the paper, and we don't want that. We want that colour to sit on top. And I was very surprised. That's why I made the little squares, because I thought, well, like if one goes to mush, I can just pull it off and revamp that, and I've not wasted the whole page. But that didn't happen. These squares have been going for a long time, and this has not happened. So I'm going to label them as well, so you can label them. Got the pale pinks, and I've done those. Now the next ones will be the pinks and the purples. So the next 2 pages will be pinks and purples. Yeah, I put acetate, but if you use this is a photocopy book, and I'm ashamed to say that this was my giveaway, and I cannot send it like this because it just upsets me. This here is what this was originally. And this was my giveaway, but I thought it looked so horrid just like that, that I needed to put some colours in. but it has places to put photocopy paper. So if you get a sheet of photocopy paper, and this isn't photocopy paper, it's my Hobonichi, this is photocopy paper. So if you get a sheet of photocopy paper and you fold it in half, you end up with this size. And then if you fold it in half again, it slides into here. So that slides into, and you can do this with any photo album, and that gives you your page, which is quite flimsy. And it's going to be next year before I get these out. I know it is, because my hands are so bad now. Whoopsie. So you end up with a flimsy piece of paper that's just, this is slightly different, this one, but most of them are a piece of paper, a piece of photocopy paper. But when you've stuck card at both sides and folded it, it sits in there quite nicely. It's really cheap to make. And your sketchbook paper's £1, and you've already got your supplies, so it's a very cheap way to make a travel set. And I'm going to get hubby to put all these supplies in a suitcase, and I don't think you'd get them on an aeroplane because there's bottles and there's all sorts of things, but I don't think you could lift the actual supplies if they were not in that form. Oh, have you found some art bars, Diamante? Oh, good. Diamante's found some art bars. That's expensive. I bought the 36. There is a 36 tin for about £30. I'm sure. I'm sure. It's probably because they don't make them anymore. But that's a bit expensive. But I am going to try and get Derwent to bring out the full set, because these colours are fantastic and they will be gorgeous for colour books. But I'm going to try and see if I can get to Derwent sometime this year and ask them if they'll bring them out in this book, because as I say, in here I've got the Derwent art products, and Derwent with the art bars and the Derwent pencils and the Derwent ink tents, they have potential for 1,000 squares of colour. And when you take into account, you get 10 shades, these are the art bars. When you take into account, you get 10 shades at least from each square. That's 10,000 colours. That's 10,000 colours in a 21st century watercolour sketchbook. Now, you couldn't do a big watercolour, but you could certainly go out with sketching with it. You can use it for professional artists because a lot of them are light fast. You can do sketches, but it's fantastic for colour books. And 10,000 shades of colours for our colour book with just a water brush has got to be pretty darn good. I must have 6,000 in here now. And so that's why I'm calling it my 21st century. But I want Derwent to bring it out, because what they could do is they could have a lovely little, like the Derwent, they could have a mini Derwent art bag. So they could call it a Derwent art purse. How about that for a name? And they could put the colours in little sleeves, and have the ring binder, and you could buy the set of Inktense pencils, or you could buy the set of the Derwent watercolour pencils, or you could have the Graphitint, and you could buy the art bars or the Inktense blocks, and you could buy that set and you could put it in your little Derwent travel pouch, and you could take it with you and use it for watercolouring, and use it for colour sketching, and use it for children. You could use it because it wouldn't be very expensive because of postage. And then Derwent could possibly say, right, well, if you've bought this set and you like them, you might want to buy them. So you could say, well, I bought this from Derwent, this is a sample, but it's also a travel set. You could knock the price off a full set of Inktense pencils, something like that. A bit like when you buy a tester pot of paint from the DIY shop, something like that. But in your little book you could build up 10,000 shades to play in colour books for not too much money and hardly any postage. So I'm desperate to try and get in touch with Derwent. I might have to just do a sit-in. I might just have to turn up in my wheelchair and say I'm not going anywhere until somebody comes out and sees me. I get arrested for being a strange artist. So my next colours will be, I've done all the oranges and the reds. I've got the pinks and the purples next. So I'm trying to do them in 60s because I do like that big colour. Now I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to try play with that. So I'm going to do the pinks next. So we've got a pink, we've got a pinky red, but I think that's the carmine. No, that's red Bordeaux. That's carmine. That's a pink. I would say that's a pink, and I would say that's a pinky purple. So I've got, let me have a look here. I've got 2, 4, 6. Let me have a look. We've got the blues. We've got some darker blues there, haven't we? So we've got 2, 4, 6 there. We've got 2, 4, 5. That one's called sky blue, so I could put that with there. We've got 2, 4, 6, and we've got 2, 4, 5 there. This one's called purple violet, but I think it's a pink. It's could be either. So this is my set of mixtured ones, all different ones here in this little box that wants mending. So I'm just going to pull out the pinky ones. I don't have any pink threads on there then, do I? No. So that means that all my pinky reds are out, including that one. So there's carmine there, so I've got 4, 2, 4, 6. If I look back onto my pinks, I think there was one that I thought was really pinky, raspberry scarlet, and I actually think I'm going to use that quite a lot, so I'm going to put raspberry scarlet in twice. Raspberry red rather. I'm going to put that one in there because it's a very, very pink and I like it, and I've got a funny feeling it's like this one. So again, you've got to scratch the colours, and it is a bit of a mess about, but so that's one pink, and that's very similar. But remember, this is an old one. This is called Reddish Purple 350. And this one is 90 and it's called Purple. And that is quite a red, that one. I've already got carmine over there. And number 80. So we've got that one, and we've got that one is Bordeaux red, and then that's a paler pink, and then that one's just a bit darker pink. So they're all reds. But I think if you're in the pink mode, then you want the pinks together. So I'm going to put them like that. So we've got those two first. And they're almost a purple, so I'm going to put them like that. So this is how I do it, and everybody does things a lot differently. Oh, hi Mara. Yes, it is, isn't it? It helps Derwent get back on the planet, back on the market, and of course they're gorgeous. You know, they've been making pencils for hundreds of years. Their watercolour pencils are so vibrant and so underrated. It's unbelievable. And the Derwent ink tints, of course, are fantastic. And they're brilliant for colour books, but you can give them to old people in old people's homes. You can give them to kids. And with a water brush, there's no mess. I mean, every time I used to get the paints out with the kids, I used to think, here we go. Disabled, children, adults, on a train, on a plane. You know, you can take an empty brush on a plane, by the water on a plane, and you've got 10,000 colours, watercolours, to play with on a plane. And it's just within the flick of a button. You don't have anything big with you. The flick of a page. You see, the art bars would be wonderful. Derwent could bring them out and put them on pieces of paper. And I think you have if you had they're 6. So if they had 60, you'd have 10 sheets of paper. 120 colours would be on 20 sheets of paper, 20 of these. So it would be, you know, mine are quite chunky. But of course theirs wouldn't be double-sided. Theirs wouldn't be 3 layers. They'd just be 1 layer, because they could have special paper that they could put colour on. So you know, instead of putting the wax into a mould, they could just scrape it across and make colours. So that's what I was thinking. But it's just for colour books, but you can also use them for sketching, for going out sketching as well. So I'm going to start this first. So I'm going to put this one first, which is raspberry red. So again, very rough because my handwriting is so bad. It's 720 and it's raspberry red. The next one, I don't actually know what it's called. This one is carmine. The next one is number 85, Bordeaux. And then we have, I don't know if we wanted the purple red first. I think it's the purple red, isn't it? That's the pinky of them all. And we'll have number 90, purple. And then we'll have a 350, which is probably called something else now. Oh, a purple red. A purplish red. So that's how I do it. Just catch up with check. I think the reason they're expensive is because they don't make the don't make the art bars anymore, but they should still have the formulas. I'm sure they could do some small trials. So that's the first layer. Now if you were doing this from pink to dark, from dark to light, you would have to clean your ruler because you would get that yellow or red onto a paler colour. So you've got to take that into consideration. I don't envisage Derwent having half a dozen people doing this to make little squares of colour. Although some people have asked me to make them for them. The problem I have is my hands were so bad yesterday because I made 12 of these squares. But it needs to be done. Because I've been asking my children to do this for weeks and weeks and weeks now. In fact, I asked them to do the giveaways months and months ago, and they still haven't done it. They're far too busy, so unless I set hubby on, but if you were watching TV or sat outside in the sun, as long as they didn't melt, you could do this quite easily. I'm sat at the dining room table. It's a little job to sit and do, and it's a bit time consuming and it's a bit boring, but once it's done, and then once you've done your colour swatches at the side, you will be so astounded at how many shades you get from one thing of colour. So the next one is carmine, and again I already have this in there, but I think I'm going to use a lot of this carmine, so I want it in there. If you have a little ruler, you can have and end up with nice neat squares, so you won't go over like me. It'll be nice and neat. But there comes a point where you cannot scratch any more colour and you realise you're just wasting making bits. And if you're very clever, you can get these bits back on your crayon and actually rub them in. You can see there comes a point where it's full of colour. That's it. you're not going to get any more. 85 is Bordeaux red. So I'll finish this one off. And again, this, as I say, finishes my hands, unfortunately, but I want to do it because I want to do a comparison with the Derwent art bars, and also I want to use this little book for colouring. So this is number 90. Right. So see how long we've been when we do these two. So just bear with me, everybody. This is a live show recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. So thank you for stopping by, everybody, on this impromptu Saturday. Everybody seemed to be wanting to go do some things, so and the prospects of just sitting watching television. And then I've got my big chunky one here. So you might be able to see there is a very slight, well, I don't know, maybe there isn't. I cannot really tell if there is a difference. And as I say, there comes a point where you just know you are not going to get any more colour on that. And that's what happens to the little one, hardly anything for all that colour. So I can put that in my little book. And you think at first, oh my goodness, I've got hundreds to do, but it's not long before you think, well, that's the plastic between that one, so that gets stuck there, and then the purples would get stuck there. So all my pink, and they are really pinky purple, that's a raspberry red. So you will find that, you know, when I stuck those there, it's going to look quite good. And that's all there is to it. You just keep going. You just keep making little squares of colour. So the next ones are purples, and they're fairly simple to see. There's that pinky purpley one again, which is purple violet. Is 100. So that could have probably gone on here instead of the carmine, probably. So I think we've got kind of this colour and then this colour. So I think we'll have that one first, then we'll have that one. We'll have that one and that one, and then this goes to purpley blues. Now that's very similar to that one. So we've got a violet and we've got a lilac. I think the aubergine will go last. Aubergine was quite dark. So I can write them out first. Oh, bye Melody. Take care. Thank you for stopping by. Oh, good, Mara. Yes, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. It's not. You just keep ploughing through them. It doesn't take long. It's just a little bit tedious, but you know, it is what it is. You are creating a really nice travel set. So this is 100, and it's, I'm going to use it in black really, I think. And that is purple violet. No, I decided to put that there, did I? And that's 111. And that one is mauve. You have lilac. And we have violet. And then we have cobalt violet. And then the last one is an aubergine, but it's quite a dark one, but it is a purple, so I wanted it with the purples. Has anybody got any questions? Bye Melody, take care. So just finish this one, and then and that was number 100, wasn't it, that one? Just need to double check because sometimes I'm not. So you can go just a light coating that way, then a light coating that way. And it's a little bit like when you're decorating with gloss paint on your wood. You know, what you miss one way, you get the other way. And then if we do this again, there's even more to go. Now there are some little bits, so I kind of mush those in a bit, and they seem to kind of disappear. So instead of brushing them off, I can kind of smush them in, and then just carefully fill up those little tiny holes, so you can end up with just pure colour. And again, it's a tight Yorkshire lass, so do try not to kind of waste any of those. So that's that one, and I'm going to put it over there. That's the next one. So you can do them how you want. You can build them up in little squares, or you can carefully scratch over the top. If you had little templates, you could even get smaller children to do this, because they like crayon and colouring in, and that's all you're doing, is you're colouring in. Oh, delightful. Cute dog, thank you. Not sure what he's been eating. Seems to be a real nice thick coating. And number 1110. And again, you know, you think, you know, do I need the full set? I've got 6 purples, I've got 6 pinks, I've got 6 pinky reds, and I've got 6 cold reds. So I've got 6 yellows, cold yellows, I've got 6 warm yellows. You know, that's a fair amount to be going on with, really. And then there's nothing to say that I can't mix any of these two colours together. So the browns, you know, again I have some lovely browns, but you can mix all these loose bits in and they'll stick on. We have 120. So I hope you don't find this too boring, but you can see in real time how to do it and how long it actually takes. But then you're creating a very unique colour book that has all your colours in it, so it's unique to you. And you might only use 6 colours, so just do a full page of each colour, and you'll be surprised how much you do not wear away your crayon, but you've made it completely portable. And again, I'm not sure if these are allowed on an aeroplane because it's a wax, even though it's a crayon, you know. But as a piece of paper like this, you should be allowed to. Just got the tiniest bit of red on there. aubergine at the bottom and the purple at the top. And again, this is a real old one, and it's going on just the same. It's going on just the same. There's absolutely no difference in consistency, and some are 22 years old nearly. They may even be older than that, because my daughter's 27 and I don't know how old she was when we took her to across Europe. But you can see in consistency, and if you want to keep your point, you can just keep rolling it round and keep your point, and you can actually make a very sharp point. So instead of sharpening your crayons, you could make one of these as you are sharpening your crayon. And again, that's going to show you how much you wasted when you sharpen your crayons. But if you have to have a point, you could resharpen them. And you can make a little point. So I now have my purples and my pinks. And as I say, believe me, there is a lot of colour there. I can't turn it over because it's the thing. The only thing you've got to remember is clean your ruler. And your hands. Some of mine don't have a lot of, because if you've got warm hands, your colours will come off, because they're very, very, very susceptible to. So that's the next lot, and we have blues next. So we've got cold and warm blues. So I'm going to go through all these. I've got the blues to do, and then I've got the greens and the browns to do. But I must be halfway there now. So I've got some really nice colours in my colour book. So thanks for watching.